Good evening. I'd like to formally welcome everyone, including members of the gallery and press, to this council meeting. My name is Councillor Gavin Gamble and I am the Mayor of the Golden Plains Shire Council. Tonight this council meeting is taking place within the Well in Smythesdale and is open to the public. The meeting is being live streamed in accordance with Council's governance rules, and I welcome any viewers to joining us online. I have the discretion and authority to at any time direct the termination or interruption of the live streaming. Such direction will only be given in accordance with the governance rules. I will now recite the opening declaration on behalf of all councillors. We, the councillors of Golden Plains Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interest of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Governance, so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of Golden Plains Shire. Now we move to the acknowledgement of country. Golden Plains Shire spans the traditional lands of the Wadawurrung and Eastern Maar peoples. Council acknowledges them as the traditional owners and custodians and pays its respects to both Wadawurrung and Eastern Maar elders past, present and emerging. Council extends that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of Golden Plains Shire. Apologies and leave of absence. Councillor Ian Getson is an apology for tonight's meeting. Are there any requests for leave of absence? Councillor Whitfield?
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I request leave from the 31st of August this year to the 14th of September, carers leave. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other further requests for leave of absence? Well, then we move on to confirmation of minutes. Councillors, we have a resolution before us to confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 26th of July 2022 and the special meeting of Council held on 29th of July 2022 as circulated. Do I have a mover of the recommendation? Councillor Rowe. Seconder? Councillor Cunningham. I now put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Conflicts of interest. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest? Myself.
And I'll also declare a conflict in item 10.3 as it relates to my employment contract.
I declare a conflict of interest relating to item 7.8 and the planning issue and merger board. The reason is I worked for the proponent around 10 years ago temporarily and believed to perceive conflict of interest. So, public question time. Sorry, I've displaced the sheet for that. I think I'm, excuse me. Here we go. Sorry, two copies there. The public question time runs for 30 minutes prior to consideration of the formal agenda by council. We consider questions received with notice from the public. I'll call each person who has submitted a question with notice forward. Please come up to the chair and ask your question as it was submitted. I note the question time is not an opportunity to make general statements or enter into a debate with council or officers. So we have one person here for a question, Mr. Graham Turnbull. Hi, Graham.
Good evening, how are you?
Can you please read out your question?
If I can remember how I stated it, sorry, I was talking to Elise on the phone while I was driving the truck today, and I believe the question was, is that now that we've purchased the church, what is the intended use of it going to be? I did have a pre-prepared statement that I wanted to make, but I believe it's not applicable to be read out. It was of a positive nature.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brassis, would you like to address this?
I will, and Graham, there's absolutely no reason, if you want to send us that statement, I'm happy to circulate it to all the councillors, just so they see it, regardless of the question tonight, so they can see what you said. As you know, on the 30th of July, council purchased the property at 66 Brook Street, Smythesdale, which includes the St. Mary's Church at the public auction. The property is located adjacent to the well, where we are meeting tonight. The council, this is council's facility, not only to our customer hub, but also to maternal child health services, library outreach services, community rooms, the digital hub, the pharmacy, and the medical center. Noting the growth of Smythesdale and the surrounding communities, council recognizes that the acquisition of this land as being a strategic opportunity for the future. Following finalization of the purchase, council will explore future options for the property. At this early stage, council does not have specific plans for the church. However, it is noted that the site is covered by a heritage overlay. Council will, in the future, as part of its decision-making process, likely to have decisions made in consultation with the broader community. Thank you. And I'll take a copy of that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Graham. We now move on to consider the formal agenda. There are a number of people who have registered to make a public submission tonight, or at least one. After the introduction of each report, I will call each submitter forward in the order they have registered to speak. For those presenting, I would like to remind you of the speaking times allocated. Each presenter may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes, and I ask you to respect the time limit, please. To assist presenters with this, a timer will be displayed in front of them. One bell sounds when you are nearing the maximum time allowed, and 2 bells will sound when your time has expired. 2 minutes will then be allocated for councillor to ask questions of the presenter. Should be councillors. I note that this is not a time for debates. So, do we have a presenter? Sufficient.
It's related to animation.
Oh, it's all not doing it. This stage will proceed to 7.1, business reports for decision. And first of all, we have a Citizen Recognition Award. Golden Plains Shire is proud to recognise the fantastic achievements and contributions made by young people in the community. We are fortunate today to present a Citizen Recognition Award to Lachlan O'Keefe, who has been recognised for his achievement in sport. Lachlan is 17 years old, lives in Smythes Creek, and has been involved in athletics high jump for 6 years. Lachlan was selected for the Australian team for the World Athletics Under 20 Championships that is being held in Colombia in August 2022. Can Lachlan please come forward to receive his award and say a few words if he wishes? We'll then take a photo.
So I just got back from Colombia. I I came 8th and made the final. It was in the under 20s and I'm 17, so I was versing 19-year-olds. So, yeah.
What was the height? 2?
I jumped 205 and the winner jumped 214. So it's pretty close.
Using the old Fosbury style.
Yep.
I jump for you.
Well, that's quite an achievement. Well done.
Thank you.
That was good. Thank you.
Well done, Mark.
Thank you.
I jump for Mr. Cunningham.
Not very good.
Jump straight over to there.
Yes.
Not very good.
Yeah, that's right.
If you measure up how high that is,
It's,
stand and look, it's amazing to get over it.
Agenda item 7.2, delegates report. Councillors, as this is our delegates report, I will ask for a mover and seconder of the recommendation, following which all councillors will be asked if they wish to speak to their attendances over the past month. Recommendation is that council receive and note the delegates report for the past month. Do I have a mover of the recommendation? Councillor Cunningham and a seconder, Councillor Kirby. Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to speak to the delegates report?
Well, thank you. Looks like councillors have had a busy month, which is good. Just, if I can, just a couple of the meetings that I attended. Councillor Rowe and myself recently attended the CCTV meeting. A full report briefing paper will be presented to the councillor group for further review and discussion. I'd like to acknowledge the members of the steering committee. There was I think about a dozen members of the committee that were from the community. Acknowledge their contribution, their time and their commitment, and also I'd like to acknowledge the work and assistance of Council Officer Matthew Sims. And also just a quick update on the Youth Hub. It's now fully staffed and getting really good numbers of young people attending. Programming at the hub will now increase to about 4 days per week. Also staff are applying for available grants to ensure additional services and programs. But I think the where we thought the hub would be, I think we've surpassed that. So, and also want to acknowledge the work of the staff down there, getting some really good comments from people who've used it. Just good. That's it for me. Thank you.
And thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Kirby, do you wish to speak?
thank you, Megan. Yes. First of all, we had a councillor conversation post online, but it was disappointing that we only had one resident phone in and speak to us live. It's something that we've tried to get out there and try and communicate a little bit more with the wider Shire. So hopefully if anyone does see the councillor conversation post come online again, we'd really appreciate having quite a few more residents come and speak to us. I also attended the Northern Business Networking event held at the Linton Hotel. Once again, we had a great number of people turn up and have a great conversation regarding networking and what we can do for businesses in the northern part of the Shire. So well done, and we look forward to that next event. Also, I attended the Active Ageing and Inclusion External Advisory Group meeting, and that was held last Thursday. Some of the actions that have been identified included that the last audit on public toilets was held in 2016, so that's due to be looked at again. The Youth Hub in Bannockburn has had some accessibility amendments done. These include lighting and the toilet door changed to accommodate wheelchairs. A accessibility map of the Shire is being finalised, and hopefully we'll see that come live on the Golden Plains website in October. The transition out of aged care. A health and wellbeing grant was successful for dementia and for programs. This will facilitate the dementia audit for the library and mobile library vans and other buildings within the Shire. Arts initiatives are ongoing. Ageism Awareness Day is on October the 7th. An event will be held at the Lethbridge Cricket Club and will incorporate a morning tea and games day. And the officers are planning for the 2022-2023 year and will be speaking and hearing from a lot of our community partners. For example, our senior citizens, walking groups, men's sheds, golf clubs and neighbourhood houses, just to name a few. The Golden Plains Connector is a great quarterly magazine that is available to all senior residents in the Shire, which does have some valuable information. It's to keep our residents informed and up to date with what's happening for people who might need be looking at having power reductions in their power bills, or there could be other grants or assistance available to them as well. So keep a lookout for the new spring edition coming, and it can also be found online through the Shire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby. Do we have any other councillors who wish to speak to the delegates' report? Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The conversation poster which Councillor Kirby just spoke to there, we all attended that, and I think when we, over my whole journey on council, we've always, as council groups, put so much effort into conversation posts and trying to keep reinventing the wheel, and it is quite disappointing. And I think when you get we've got next to nobody turning up, and I think we probably committed 2 or 3 hours there, and arguably we were in strict tough competition with the finale of Neighbours, and so Neighbours beat us that night. But it is disappointing, especially with I personally always thought with the engagement of IT equipment and all that, being able to, as a council, sit at home and then engage with the public would have been something that would have got a little bit more traction than what it has the last couple of times we have done it. So is a little bit disappointed. Maybe it's a little bit too daunting for someone to turn up to as well. So maybe we need to have a little bit of conversation things that we can sort of do there. We also attended with the Mayor and Councillor Les Rowe the Maud Community Hall meeting. We had a engaged conversation there with the group there, and what they can do going forward. They've been obviously promised a significant amount of money for that community hub there by the state government, by the federal government, and giving them some sort of advice going forward. And then I did mention the last meeting we had Christy Harris, a local resident in Batesford there, that just came back from the Commonwealth Games, and unfortunately got knocked out in the early rounds of the boxing there. But and I did give a call out to see if there was anyone else in the Shire, but I don't think I heard of anyone else in the Shire. But nice to have one representative there, but unfortunately no girls coming home to Golden Plains. But thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Do I have any other councillors who wish to speak to the delegates' report? Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Mayor. I attended the in-person Teesdale flood study engagement session. 22 people attended. The flood study was aimed at potential impacts on property from flooding from Native Hut Creek. But actually the majority of discussion raised by residents was around flooding that occurs above the river in the stormwater infrastructure. The study was done by a company called WaterTech, and I have to say that their representatives were excellent in the work they provided in the study, and their knowledge, which when they engaged with the locals was fantastic, as was the council staff listening to all the locals' concerns. I thought it was a very worthwhile engagement session. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak on the Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, listen, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I did attend the Maud Landcare AGM last Thursday evening, and I chaired this at Maud. This is a very solid group and all positions were filled. The question again was raised, when is the council going to take over management of the small area in Patricia Road at Knights Bridge? And I said I would follow up with council in relation to this down the track. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, over the last month since council meeting, I attended and welcomed the G21 board meeting. The meeting was held at our civic centre in Bannockburn. The main meeting was followed up with simultaneous meetings of the CEOs and the mayors. It's the first time meeting with the new City of Geelong Mayor, Peter Murray, and went very well. Additionally, with G21, I've been actively participating in the soon-to-be-delivered integrated transport strategy. Just yesterday, I had a planning meeting with the G21 mayors and Julia Baggio, the CEO, regarding the forthcoming delegation to state parliament next week. We'll be speaking to 5 key ministers at the moment. Also a lot of shadow ministers and assistants, and there's more to be confirmed. So there'll be a very full day. Round 2 of Council's Community Strengthening Grants program is open for all of September. Also, the inaugural Berrybank Wind Farm Community Grants program will also be launching in September. We encourage all groups to consider an application. There's 5 drop-in sessions across the Shire to support community groups through the application process where you can get help in both grant programs. We have more stability now for planning ahead, so I encourage the many people who may have dropped off a little to link up, get their mojo back and go for grants. Likewise, we have terrific land care groups, and as Councillor Rowe was mentioning, and I was very pleased to participate in the National Tree Day at Bruce's Creek. There were families from the area as well as Bannockburn, including Teesdale, Westbridge, Russell's Bridge, and many officers were there with their families, some even coming out from Geelong, and not just the environment crew. Dale Smithyman was helping out with the Batesford, Stonehaven, Finesford group, and there are other events happening around the Shire. You can make contact with their many land care groups via the Geelong Land Care website, and the northern part of the Shire, the Leading Catchment Group, and their Facebook pages. Also, there are friends group too in your area. Last Saturday, I had a big day, starting with attendance at the Smythesdale Community Market, combining with my weekly coffee with the mayor engagement session. I enjoy getting out and meeting the residents and community groups at different events and townships around the whole Shire to listen and learn, sometimes inform and reassure. During my time at the Smythesdale Market, I'm happy to report Council received terrific support for our recent strategic land purchase, not just from very strong historical groups such as the Wadi Young Historical Society, but from CFA members, stall holders, the member for Ripon, and general residents. Around lunchtime, the chair of Smythesdale Progress Association, who is known in these parts, took me on a guided tour. As part of my cycling around the area, my coffee with the mayor sessions, I visited the Smythesdale Gardens, cycled around the township proper and lots of other roads. At 4 o'clock that day, I attended the Enfield Hall with Councillor Kirby and Richo from the Youth Hub for the Daryl Enfield Scout Group annual meeting, along with about 50 or over noisy and happy people, most of them young, along with Richo was there as he was at the Teesdale Bends event AGM last week. Anyway, I just want to mention what a terrific bunch of leaders and parents we've got with this new group in the middle of the Shire. And they've already got 4 different groups running, or soon to have a Joey's group. I'd like to acknowledge and pay tribute to officers who facilitated the use of the Enfield Hall in particular by the Scouts group. It was a great decision. Other engagements of many deserving of mention include a meeting with the president of the Batesford Community Planning Group, a meeting with Catherine King in the Ballarat office, and attendance at the St Mary MacKillops Church dedication in Bannockburn. It was a significant part in the southern part of Golden Plains. There were many newer residents there where I met, and older ones too, including a past mayor. There were over 300 people in attendance. Lastly, with the forthcoming Rural Councils Victoria event coming up soon, myself, Councillors Getson, Kirby and Rowe are booked in to attend the Dalesford Conference. The only accommodation, however, was in nearby Hepburn Springs. I'm looking forward to sharing a spa bath with my councillor colleagues. Thank you.
You're drowning.
So, Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to close?
Nothing else there. Yeah, that sounds like it was a pretty busy month by everyone. And, yeah, not a problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. 7.3, Council Plan 2021-25 Implementation, fourth quarter. I'll ask the Director, Simon Rennie, to briefly introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is to update council on the progress of the council plan. The council plan is set with every new council after an election, and it sets the strategic direction of the council for the next 4 years. So this update is for the progress of quarter 4, the council plan, and I would encourage all members of the public to log on and check out the progress of the council plan for the last year, which shows progress against actions, plans and strategies, and also the municipal public health and wellbeing plan for the last year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So we have a recommendation that council note the report and implementation of the actions contained in the council plan from 2021 to 2025 to quarter 4 from the 1st of April 2022, 30th of June 2022. So are there any questions? Does any, Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mr. Rennie. Overall, how many actions were involved? I didn't get to count them all. Any idea?
Off the top of my head, Council, there are a number of actions, probably, close to 100 separate actions, and the plan will show the progress. And there's been some excellent progress between the plan, strategies, and actions over the past year.
Thank you.
Do any further questions? Does any council wish to move the officer recommendation as written? Councillor Whitfield? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do, thanks, Chairperson. I move the recommendation as the motion. 1 year into this council plan, and like Director Rennie, I'm quite surprised at the progress. That there is a lot of progress being made across all these actions, and bear with me as I read some out. There's quite a few. The Municipal Health and Wellbeing Action Plan has been implemented, and an emergency management plan for the Shire covering all hazards has been produced. The Reflect Reconciliation Action Plan is in place. The Arts and Culture and Heritage Strategy has been adopted. The Community Planning Program is developed and ongoing. The Road and Bridge programs have completed multiple projects. The 3 trails, path and trail improvements are 90% complete. A planning scheme review is underway. Growth areas have been identified and worked on, such as Bannockburn South and the Northern Settlement Strategy. Significant work has been done in the review of waste collection services. The Northern Streetscape Framework Plan has been endorsed and adopted. The digital hub here where we are today is operational in Sminesdale. There are a number of areas where advocacy is underway or is already taken place. Council's communication, I believe, is greatly improved with social media, print media, and a more user-friendly website. Council has completed all requirements of the Local Government Act 2020, which was an enormous task. The Active Ageing and Inclusion Plan has been implemented. The new rating strategy was put through. There are new ICT systems that have been and continue to roll out to streamline and improve council processes. There is a long way to go with many facets of the council plan still to come, but I would say the progress of the council plan is well on track. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I think councillor Whitfield's covered most of the things, but just what I'd like to say is we know the council plan plays a key role in setting the strategic direction for the council term. To be noted in the plan includes a municipal public health wellbeing plan with the intention to improve the health and wellbeing of our community. Needs to be noted as following the last 2 years, our community has lived through with COVID and coming out of that, the focus is good to see on residents being able to access applicable service and programs and support. So I'm happy to also support the council's recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Kirby?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just at the end of Q4, I'd just like to say that we do have action of a lot of programs and services within the council. I just have a few more to add to Councillor Whitfield's and Councillor Cunningham's voices there. Council has been successful in a grant for a bushfire resilience officer. Officers have strengthened relationships with key stakeholders such as Golden Plains Arts Inc, local artists and historical societies to map and deliver actions against the arts and heritage strategy. Q4 seen 286 young people attend programs at the Youth Hub and a further 88 attended development programs around the Shire. Non-profit Training Proprietary Limited was awarded the contract for community planning. The first round of funding for community grants has been funded by the Berry Bank Wind Farm, so we're seeing that take place now. The Active Ageing and Inclusion team have started planning for their new structure, and that will be actioned off in the next 12 months. We've seen many upgrades of roads and bridges. We've also been advocating for pedestrian crossings in townships, and we've had many recreation studies come and monies approved through state and federal government monies. And at the moment, we are still working on the Shire-wide settlement strategy, and hopefully that comes to council in the next couple of months. So overall, the officers have been working extremely hard in the background, and we thank them for all their hard work for the last 12 months. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Kirby. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak for the motion or on the motion? In that case, councillor Whitfield, do you wish to close?
No, thanks. Mayor, well covered by all those as well.
Okay, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Now move on to item 7.4. Climate emergency plan for exhibition. I'll ask Director Josipovic to briefly introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In July of 2021, Council declared a climate emergency and committed to the development of a climate emergency plan to detail actions Council and the community can take to mitigate, adapt and respond to climate change in the Shire. Since that declaration, officers have undertaken community engagement, analysed feedback and prepared a draft climate emergency plan, which is attached to tonight's report. The plan aligns with themes and objectives in the 2021 to 2025 Council plan, Council's environment strategy between 2019 and 2027, as well as the Local Government Act of 2020 and Climate Change Act of 2017. Engagement with community, other councils, council staff and councils has informed the development of this draft plan. The plan gives context to the current and future impacts of climate change within the Shire and lays out actions for council to undertake over the next 10 years under 5 themes, being embedding climate action in council, resilient and adaptive communities, caring for the land, climate responsive development, sustainable transport and travel. The recommendation before you is that council endorses the draft climate emergency plan and places the draft of exhibition for community comment for a period of 4 weeks. And 2, no officers will present a final draft climate emergency plan for council adoption, having considered any public submissions received. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director. Are there any questions from councillors to put to the Director? Okay, so do I have a mover of the officer recommendation as written? Read out by Councillor Whitfield. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Kirby. Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, thanks, Mayor. Yes, I move the recommendation as the motion to send this plan out for public exhibition. It's an important plan that identifies measures council can employ in regards to mitigation, adoption, and responses to climate change. I think that's it in a nutshell. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kirby, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Climate change is an integral part of council and the wider community. Council's commitment is to take action on climate change and to recognise that urgent action is required by all levels of government. Council is committed to action to mitigate emissions and to support communities to adapt to current and future impacts. This also includes the agriculture sector, residents and commercial businesses. There is a lot more detail in the plan, so I urge all residents to look over the plan and submit any further feedback and comments to strengthen the 2022 to 2032 plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kirby. Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Cunningham?
Thanks, Mayor Gamble. I just wanted to acknowledge the feedback and the engagement that we had with the community and other councils which assisted in the formation of the draft plan. Thank you.
Thank you. To Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge the author of this, David Collins, who did a fantastic presentation to us. It's put a huge amount, not just him, but his team there has done a fantastic job in putting this plan together. I'll be extremely disappointed if the community don't really engage in this, because I think they're already engaged in this. And I'll be quite surprised if we don't get a good level of engagement through this over the next 4 weeks. It is in parts of this plan, it is largely aspirational in terms of what we want to achieve. And I know many residents in the Shire give me examples of what other councils are doing, and our inner city Melbourne councils are able to do a huge amount of work in this space. But ultimately, this plan will be superseded by our budget each and every year. So that will be our challenge as councillors, is initiating and putting this in. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit in this plan which we will be able to achieve, but I suspect over the next 10 years of this plan there'll be many times where this council and the councillors into the future will be challenged by the cost to do these things. So we've got a lot of plans being put in front of us tonight, and this is one. So hopefully all goes well, and the engagement is very good over the next few weeks, and people are speak to and mindful of the cost of some of these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. So, any other councillors who wish to speak? Councillor Whitfield, would you like to close?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Well, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? And all those against? Did you?
Yeah, I was in favour.
Okay, so I wasn't sure. Okay, well, in that case, the motion is carried unanimously. And like Councillor Kirby said, and Councillor Sharkey, we urge the community to engage, whether they lead and engage, give us feedback. Item 7.5, it's a draft economic development, tourism and investment attraction strategy, 2022 to 2032. I'll ask Mr. Brazos, the CEO, to briefly introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would normally do the report, but I've got Peter, our Economic Development Officer, Peter Ridsdale, sitting in the back, and I thought maybe a good opportunity for him to be able to address the council while he's here tonight. I know he's here for another item, but while he's here, he may want to just introduce the Economic Development Strategy.
Thanks, Eric. Always appreciate it. I like to call up. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, members of the gallery. As I...
Excuse me, Mr. Ridsdale, before you get right into it, maybe it'd be good to come out the front here so you can, so the viewers at home can see you.
As long as I don't break the camera. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I presented to last week's councillor briefing, I think one of the pleasing aspects of this report is that there has been a number of levels of community consultation, councillors, other stakeholders, key representatives of our tourism and business community, our community leaders and the general public. Out of that process, we've certainly had some input. I was very pleased to receive input at the councillor briefing, which has been noted to be put to the consultants as they work through the final version of this particular report. It's a strategy that guides economic development, which includes improving the livability or contributing to the livability within Golden Plains Shire. And I think within this particular strategy, there is the foundation for some very exciting initiatives to be implemented, particularly over the forecast 4-year period, with the balance 6 years being more aspirational challenges as we move through the first 4 years. So I commend this draft strategy for council to adopt to go on public exhibition. Thank you. And happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ridsdale. Are there any questions? Councillor Sharkey.
Just a quick question around the just on that previous item, we're going out to consultation for 4 weeks, and it's sort of clearly defined in that motion. The report says that this is going out commencing from the 25th of August, which is in 2 days time, and that the motion doesn't really speak to how long it's actually going out for public exhibition.
Yeah, we typically put them out for about a 4-week period, generally. And you know, again, given that it'll cross 2 council cycles, you know, we're likely even then to receive feedback after that 4 weeks that would make it into the next cycle anyway. So yeah, but no less than 4 weeks, and that's pretty standard across all our strategies and engagements across the organisation.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Ridsdale. Thank you. So the recommendation is that council endorse the draft Economic Development, Tourism Investment Attraction Strategy 2022-2032 for public exhibition. So do I have a mover of the officer recommendation as written? Councillor Cunningham. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Kirby. Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor Gamble. First, I'd like to acknowledge the work of the council officers, Peter and his team, who were involved in the formation of this report and strategy, and also the assistance that's currently being made available to our business sector. As our Shire's population continues to grow, so does the need for applicable economic growth throughout all of the Shire. And as we all do, we believe our Shire has so much to offer in the area of tourism attractions. And we already have established community groups that will be available to assist and be involved going forward. So I'm more than happy to fully support the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Kirby, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's always exciting when these this economic development strategies come to the table. We know that as a growing Shire that we need to invest in work and play and what other things that are happening within our own backyard. We have seen some bigger areas developed in Bannockburn. We now need to sort of really start looking at other areas of the Shire for economic performance where we can, you know, look and grow other businesses in all small townships around the Shire. Just this week alone, I've had two people come out of the Geelong region, and they're just going for a drive through the country. So they just come out to see what attractions that we've had, and we had one today and one 2 days ago. So it really helped to, you know, to get it out there and showcase what our Shire has to offer. In this investment strategy, we have 60 defined actions, and so this has been identified to drive growth and prosperity for our Shire, and to give businesses a commitment to know that our Shire is behind them and going forward. So we look forward to any future business opportunities that might come our way, and I know Peter and his team are always there to help any businesses that might want to come on board. So I really look forward to this going out to the community, all business, all people within the Shire, whether you're a community group, have a say, let us know what you're thinking, and put your points forward so that they can be included in the strategy. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Again, this one probably a little bit of a repeat from the previous comments I had on the on climate change one. This is a document that would again be disappointing not to hear from community members. We've got a lot of community leaders in the business space in the whole Shire that are constantly asking questions of what council's doing in this space. So this is a fantastic document to be able to hold us accountable to. Also, it's a fantastic plan to have the likes of the Bannockburn Commerce Group educated on this, to actually see what this document looks like, see what the roadmap that council likes to put forward, what their actions they're going to see. And it is good to see that the focus on this will be in the first 4 years. This is a 10-year plan. We are one of the fastest growing shires, councils in Victoria. So this is going to be, to look back at this in 10 years' time, this will be fast outdated, this document. So it'll be good to see that bit of work being done in that first few years. And again, it'd be really good to see some of those community leaders in the business space and tourism putting their 2 bob into this and giving us that feedback. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further councillors who wish to speak on the motion? In that case, Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to add?
Nothing else to add there, thank you, Mayor Gamble.
Okay, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? No, motion is carried unanimously. So item 7.6. The Wodie Yallock Equestrian Centre Master Plan 2022 to 2032. As Director Sigona is an apology this evening, I'll ask Director Sipovich to briefly introduce the report on Director Sigona's behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Wodie Yallock Equestrian Centre at Lords Road in Smilesdale is a significant sporting facility in the north of the Golden Plains Shire Council. The centre provides facilities that cater for multidisciplinary equestrian activities and events, and attracts users from across the region and the state. The Golden Plains Shire Sport and Active Recreation Strategy 2020 to 2030 identifies the Wodie Yallock Equestrian Centre as the Shire's only regional level sporting facility. The strategy provides a specific action to continue developing a regional equestrian facility, taking into consideration any additional supporting infrastructure and programming required to increase participation. To progress this action, a detailed master planning process was undertaken in partnership with consultant SVP Advisory. This included development of a thorough evidence-based assessment of the existing facilities, which is documented in the research report. Extensive community engagement for the master plan was undertaken by a community survey conducted in April and May of this year, and through direct consultation sessions held with the Wodie Yallock Equestrian Centre Committee of Management. The Wodie Yallock Equestrian Centre Master Plan will inform strategic planning and investment opportunities for the facility and is backed by evidence and community need, benefit and sustainability. It provides clear, prioritised recommendations and designs for a centre across 6 different infrastructure categories. The master plan will assist in the scoping of potential advocacy and funding opportunities to deliver future upgrades and increase participation at the Wadi Yallock Equestrian Centre. The recommendation is that Council 1 adopt the Wadi Yallock Equestrian Centre Master Plan 2022 to 2032, and 2 note the Wadi Yallock Equestrian Centre background research report.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Do I have a councillor who wishes to move the officer recommendation as written? Councillor Kirby. And do I have a second? Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Kirby, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Gamble. Yes, so I'm very happy to adopt the Wadi Yallock Equestrian Master Plan and note that the Equestrian Centre background research report. In consultation with the Committee of Management, the overall priorities included retaining the site's largest outdoor sand arena, additional and more efficient car parking spaces, additional horse yards to enable larger events, an indoor arena to increase participation for all seasons and conditions, mitigating creek flooding, maintaining and enhancing the aesthetics of the centre. Out of this, there were 73 responses were received from the survey, and feedback was received regarding strengths and weaknesses of the centre and how the centre can be enhanced into the future. So it's really good to see that there was 73 people who made the time and effort to put their thoughts clearly out there. I commend this master plan, which will provide a strategic direction for council for the next 10 years and help provide evidence for future funding opportunities. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, thanks, Mayor. Director Josipovic and Councillor Kirby covered it very well. There's the master plan includes some very extensive infrastructure upgrades and redesign of the facility. And as Councillor Kirby said, having this document in place will allow council to work with the Equestrian Centre to prioritise projects and identify funding opportunities. The centre is ideally located to capture an increasing patronage and strive to become a state recognised facility. I just want to say well done to those involved in the conception and the compilation of the master plan. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak for the motion?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just going going to support this motion. It is again a largely aspirational document, but it is, I think there has to be some conversations around certain things like this and the cost. And whilst it's great to have all these benefits, we're talking a $5 million equestrian arena, $1.8 million structures, 600,000 parking. There's nearly $9 million of costs there in that section in just those 6 categories. It is a club with 150 members, which equates to about $60,000 per member to get this up and running. Hopefully none of this costs, if we are fortunate enough to get funding, there will be contributions by council committing to this, but it would be great to see clubs like this one, not just this, but other clubs, and I've mentioned it on other items, where it'd be nice to see the clubs invested in this process as well. We're going to look for the state government, federal funding, state government, council funding. It would be nice to see clubs contribute themselves and back them. Not every kid in the Shire can afford to go into an equestrian centre and start a sport such as this. So it's a significant amount of money that we're committing to in this aspirational sort of plan. But I'm being a little bit critical. I'm picking on that bit, but I just think there's times where we as a council should have a conversation around the cost of some of these things. it's a significant amount of money, and I think it'd be remiss not to mention that side of the plan. Hopefully everything comes and the money falls from the sky, but at the end of the day, it's going to be our ratepayers that are going to want this community need. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, councillor Sharkey. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Kirby, would you like to close?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, councillor Sharkey, for your remarks, but my kids have participated in Pony Club and adult riders, and when it is Pony Club, it's not that dear to actually pay for fees. And we are a rural shire, and a lot of our residents do have a little pony or a horse in the backyard, and this is just one way of offering different realms of sport and friendships in different ways within our rural community. So I think it's probably even cheaper than joining a football club these days. Football clubs, their membership fees are well into the $200 mark. So I think overall it's something that is open to all residents, whether you're a young male, female, teenagers and adults. So it does cater for all ages and ranges of people within our community. So it is something that it is a 10-year master plan, and as well as that, we also know that most of these centres they do have rally days and clubs, and they do a lot of fundraising. And when it comes to the crunch, I'm sure that they will provide a great deal of funding to go towards any of these projects that might come up. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, councillor Kirby. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Now we move to item 7.7. This is governance rules for adoption. I'll ask Director Rennie to briefly introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The governance rules have been out on public exhibition for 3 weeks with one submission received. That submission was regarding being physically present for public question time, and the officers are recommending that a sub rule be added that when public meetings are held by solely electronic means, that they can elect to have their question read by the chairperson if they don't want to appear on video. Some other minor changes were made to bring motions in line with notice of motions. Some more clarity in regard to further motions when a vote is taken and a matter declared or lost. Some more explanatory notes added for clarity, and clarity in relation to live streaming. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Director Rennie. I refer councillors to page 25 of the agenda for the officer recommendation, which is a longer one. So we'll take it as written there on page 25. So do we have any questions? Can I have a mover for the officer recommendation? Councillor Whitfield. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. I will. I do move the recommendation as the motion. Director Rennie covered up most of the changes there with the improvements on and clarity for rules on public questions, and some other improvements with digital attendance. There's one in there, the removal of gendered titles. That might take an adjustment period for the councillors and officers here. So just be aware, bear with anyone that follows old habits. Yeah, look, these rules are always evolving, and this is just the latest version. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to speak on the motion?
Nothing else to add at this stage. Thanks, Mayor Gamble.
Okay, so are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to close?
Nothing further to add. Thanks, Chairperson.
Okay, so I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried unanimously. For this item, I've declared a conflict of interest, so I'll go out in the cold and hopefully people come and get me. Councillor Kevin. Deputy Mayor.
Item 7.8, P22005, 1960 Hamilton Highway, Murgy Bullock, a dwelling. I will ask the director to briefly introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This report relates to a planning permit application for the use of the land for a dwelling under the farming zone provisions, including construction of the dwelling on a lot less than 100 hectares. The site is also subject in part to the following overlays: floodway overlay, land subject to inundation, significant landscape overlay, and salinity management overlay. The application was advertised to adjoining properties and one sign on the site, and no objections were received to the application. The subject site is located on the northern side of the Hamilton Highway, Murgy Bullock, approximately 2 kilometres west of Burnside Road, with an overall area of approximately 51.75 hectares. The site contains 3 dams and is devoid of any built form or any established shelter belts or vegetation. Access to the property is via an existing farm access point from the Hamilton Highway, which is a Transport 2 zone, Department of Transport Road. The dwelling is proposed to be located in the southern third of the subject site, approximately 500 metres from the Hamilton Highway. The farm management plan submitted proposes agricultural use and activities on the site, including breeding and rearing of Southdown sheep, cropping and pasture improvements. The referral authorities specified in the planning scheme for this type of application are the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, Department of Transport and Corangamite Catchment Authority. The Department of Environment, Water, Land and Planning provided a response with commentary regarding potential impact of the known salinity characteristics of the site, with approximately 70% of the site covered by salinity management overlay. Other than that, they had no objections to the permit. The other referral authorities have not responded to the referral at time of preparing this report. Agriculture Victoria now offer a non-statutory referral advice to councils on permit applications related to agriculture. Their response to council's referral can be summarised as the proposed agricultural activities can be carried out without on-site supervision. However, if council decide to grant a permit, they have provided suggested conditions. In conclusion, key considerations in assessing this application have been the objective of farming zone provisions and the rural land use strategy adopted by council in 2008, which is a reference document in the planning scheme and results in a permit required for dwellings of farming zone less than 100 hectares. It is officers' position that this 51 hectare parcel of land can continue to be used for agricultural purposes, such as sheep breeding and rearing, cropping and pasture improvements, without the need for a dwelling. While stock do need a level of supervision and management, a dwelling is not necessary. There's no compelling justification as to why it would be essential in this instance. So the recommendation of councillors is that council resolve to issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant planning permit for the use and development of a dwelling on the 3 grounds provided in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Disclevich. Is there any questions, councillors? No questions? Okay. We now have Tim Knight joining us in person to provide his presentation on this item. If you'd like to come forward, it's fine. Yep.
Careful, Victoria. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, and fellow councillors for giving us the opportunity to speak. The Knight family, Rod, Jan, myself and my brother James have been farming in the area for over 75 years. The family has been running sheep and crop on this property since the mid-1950s, when it was part of the property Burnside. Following the sale of the family property Burnside, this block has been run in conjunction with the home farm at 500 Shelford Road, Bambgani, approximately 1,500 acres, and currently running 5,000 sheep. The farms are approximately 30 kilometres apart. It has become increasingly costly and time consuming to travel daily between the farms. Currently, Rod travels with my father up to twice daily to Murgee Farm, while I travel from Geelong, living on site to eliminate the necessity of transporting oversized hazardous equipment back and forth from Bambgani. The family has put a lot of planning into how we can increase the efficiency of the two farms and the profitability of the Murgee Farm. There's no consideration of the council's economic policies in the response to planners. Council's own local policy, diversified economy, aims to support value-adding industries and service industries, particularly those that relate to agriculture and those that service local grown products. Minimal consideration also being given to the land and care and environmental protection and enhancement. Family is wanting to build a dwelling at this location to house a farm manager being myself, who is already employed by the family business, so Rod doesn't have to travel there on the days required. This will allow to reduce travelling hours, such and such. The dwelling and shedding would probably sited away from the highway, with the structures being no more visible than existing structures in the Murgee landscape in Barwon and River Valley. To improve farming productivity, we intend to have sheep there consistently instead of seasonally. Once livestock stud breeding are the primary enterprise, the necessity to live on site will become more essential. The block has the potential to hold 500 merino weaners, double the amount per hectare compared to the Bambgani farm. As they are young sheep, they need constant monitoring and checking for issues such as being fly-blown, risk of foxes and overall health. It is also important to be on site to be able to consistently check water availability for stock. We also intend once there, if still living on site, to move the south down views. There are lambing and sheltered valley and wood pastures make it ideal conditions for the ewes to lamb. Once the lambs reach a certain age and condition, they will be transported back to the main farm at Bambgani for selling. When lambing, it is important that the ewes are continuously monitored for their well-being during birthing and for their protection of the newborn lambs from predators. Some stud ewes and lambs may need to be shedded for the well-being of the lamb. These sheep can also be worth large amounts of money, and the security of having someone living on site will reduce the risk of them being stolen. Several concerns were raised by the planning, including conflict with neighbours' practices. Our dwelling will not conflict with the surrounding land uses. The development is compatible with nearby land uses. We know surrounding landowners and have spoken to our direct neighbours. Our plans, there were no objections for this application. The proposal will not result in the fragmentation of land as the lot is existing. Configuration of our lot and that of surrounding lots in the predominantly the same as the original Crown grants of the parish plan. Another concern raised by the planner was access to the property. Since the submission of application, Vic Roads have made improvements to the road, including widening the crossover, improvements to the drainage. This will make access safer, particularly during the weather months. We note that Agriculture Victoria did not object to the proposal and in their conclusion provided recommendations and conditions in the event that as the permit was to be issued. A detailed 3-page response was provided to Council, however no reference is made to such in the officer report. In conclusion, we are not changing the current farm management practices but improving and increasing productivity of this 57 hectare block, and the application should be based on merits of the proposal being to support the intensified sheep/stud breeding activities. We have no plans to subdivide or sell this land, only to manage it to its full potential. We have already advised the planner we would be accepting of a condition placed on the permit, preventing any further subdivision of the site so as to create an additional lot. We are farmers, we love this life and simply want to build a house to live the land as we work at upgrading and improving the farm for our future generations of ours. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any questions, councillors, of Mr. Knight? No questions? Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we have a recommendation before us on page 29 of the agenda for the officer's recommendation. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rowe?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Listen, I would like to move an alternative council motion, which will become a motion. The council resolves to issue a planning permit, P22-005, for the use and development of a dwelling and shed and associated works pursuant to the provisions of the farming zone clauses 35.07-1 and 35.07-4, SLO 3 clause 42.03-2, and SMO clause 44.02-1, and to create access to a road in a transport zone, 2, pursuant to clause 52.29 of the planning scheme at lot 1 on title plan 964521E at 1960 Hamilton Highway, Murgee-Bullock, subject to the following 10 conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Whitfield? Thank you, councillors. Just for you to note, that has been circulated to all the councillors with all the conditions, so that if you need to refer to it, you're able to. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. This planning application P22-005 has come to council today from a ratepayer requesting a planning permit for the use and development of a dwelling at 1960 Hamilton Highway, Murgee-Bullock. The dwelling is required to allow a full-time presence on the land, to facilitate improvements to the land through cropping pasture improvements, and improvements to the escarpment where there are sections of tunnel and gully erosion, and an expansion of an existing South Down stud. This parcel of land is in the farming zone with an area of 51.76 hectares, 130 acres. A planning permit is triggered in the farming zone for a dwelling on lots less than 100 hectares, 250 acres. Hence the reason this is in front of us at the moment, as we need to make a decision. This application was supported by a farm management plan, which all councillors have had time to read. Agricultural industries continue to be the major economic sector, comprising 25% of employment in the Shire. The application was advertised with one sign on the site, plus a notice was given by mail to 16 owners and occupiers of the surrounding land, and the advertising material was also available on council's website. At the end of the advertising, no objections were received. Therefore, no consultation meeting was required. Referral agents were contacted for comment. Access to the dwelling would be provided via an existing access way from the Hamilton Highway, which has been used for many years. Department of Transport was contacted as referral authority through clause 52.29, creation or alteration of an access to the road in a Transport 2 zone being the Hamilton Highway. Department of Transport did not object to this application. The application was referred to the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, another referral authority, and considered the application in accordance with section 55 of the Planning Environment Act 1987 and advised that it did not object to the granting of a planning permit. Furthermore, Corangamite Catchment Authority. Another referral authority was contacted and did not object to the granting of a planning permit. The Golden Plains Shire Council, as the responsible authority, referred this application to Agriculture Victoria for comment. Agriculture Victoria had concerns with the proposed change of ownership and the relationship with the Lansdale farm. The change of ownership is within the family and not outside the family, as the property will be passed down from father to son. Furthermore, for interest to all, the Knight family have owned this parcel of land for over 70 years, and the family will run this property at Murchabully in conjunction with the 2,000 acres they already own in the Golden Plains Shire of Shelford. In the closing recommendation by Ag Victoria in the meeting strategic objectives of the Golden Plains Shire planning scheme, if council determines a permit was to be granted to allow a dwelling on the subject land, Ag Victoria made a number of recommendations which are attached to the conditions in the council motion. I want to note that within 2 kilometres of this permit application, we have 12 dwellings in the farming zone, and on a similar or less acreage, and this dwelling will not cause negative impact on environment or landscape qualities of the area. Councillors, I want to share with you a recent planning applications approved by council officers since the rural land use strategy was adopted by council in 2008. And only 1.5 kilometres from this permit application we're discussing at the moment. Site number 1 is a site consisting of 51.35 hectares and very much the exact size of our discussion. And in 2010, officers granted a permit P10-327 for the use and development of the land for a dwelling, stables and indoor-outdoor riding area. I can only assume that the equestrian activities constituted the proposed agricultural activities outlined in the farm management plan. Now, site number 2 is a site consisting of 16 hectares or 40 acres that council officers approved a permit for in 2019. The permit number P19-082 was for development of a dwelling and associated buildings. The farm management plan for this application stated that the farming proposal was initial establishment of a small free-range poultry farm of 50 to 100 chickens, and a longer-term consideration being given to a vineyard and beehive production, along with eradication of pest animals and pest plants. I consider the application on site number 2 I have just discussed is not as solid as the Knight application. However, council officers approved it, and I consider council has set a precedent with the approval of P19-082 and P10-327, both with frontage to Hamlin Highway, Murchabully. I also want to mention an order from VCAT on the 18th of August 2016, Rankin versus Golden Plains Shire, where the decision of the responsible authority was set aside and a permit was granted for use and development of land for a dwelling in the farming zone to support a white Suffolk sheep stud on 8 hectares, 20 acres at 2104 Meredith Mount Mercer Road, Mount Mercer. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Rowe. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak? Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. Take decisions like these very seriously. So I'll run you through my thought process. So this proposal is in a permitted use category, and we need to decide, can this be approved without being contrary to the intent or purpose of the farm zone and other local planning strategies? To do this, we need to ask the appropriate question. The question should not be, is the dwelling necessary to carry out the proposed use? The question should be, if a dwelling is approved, does it meet the purpose section of the farm zone, which says to ensure that non-agricultural uses, including dwellings, do not adversely affect the use of land for agriculture. The application submits the intended use as a sheep stud and the dwelling is ancillary to it. Would the dwelling adversely affect agricultural practices? A dwelling is classed as a sensitive use and can restrict neighbouring agricultural practices that cause nuisance, noise and dust to that dwelling. One has to assume that as 16 neighbours were notified and no objections were received, they understand the effects a sensitive use could impose and still did not deem it worthy of objection. Likewise, the proponents would be aware that farming practices occur on the neighbouring properties and are acceptable of those. I have no doubt that the management of the sheep stud and improvements to the land, as outlined in the farm management plan, would be done to a greater level if people lived on site. So one could say agricultural activity would be enhanced. The advice from AgVic is that should a permit be granted, some conditions could be applied to support the alignment of the proposal with the farm zone intent. The additional conditions provided in the motion put by Councillor Rowe guarantee it will not adversely affect the use of land for agriculture. Any concerns about setting a trend or encouraging a proliferation of dwellings on lots under 100 hectares is lessened in this case, as there are already many dwellings on similar sized lots existing, and two that have been approved since the 2008 Rural Land Strategy was implemented. It's important to point out that whatever the decision reached today, just going forward, the merits of each application coming to council in future will be looked at on a case-by-case basis. I don't want this to, whatever the decision happens here tonight, to open up the floodgates, so to speak. Look, there has been no objection from Dwell. The business feasibility study provided in the application indicates that the proposed use will be profitable. And on a side note, a review of the Golden Plains planning scheme is in its early stages, and this exact scenario is one of the items being reviewed. I support the application. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any councillors who would like to speak against the motion? Councillor Sharkey.
I wasn't going to speak against the motion, but I'll speak anyhow. Look, these, I echo a couple of those comments made by Councillor Whitfield in regards to the process we go through now, where we call these in. You really have to. We always get told by all those around us that we need to take out councillor hats. We need to take out. It's not relevant that the family's been here for 75 years and the farm there and they know there. Those things become irrelevant. We have to put our planning hats on and look at these. And as Councillor Whitfield said, each one in its own merit. So this one, the presentation that we got at our briefing day was a fantastic presentation. It was excellent questions asked by all of those here in the room. And there's a lot of instances where these are black and white. They are absolutely black. If we had any of the relevant referral bodies saying anything hugely negative or wasn't applicable, then it would be a flat no. So there is a lot of black and white in these planning items. This one is definitely one that is not clear cut. It definitely is one that falls into a grey area. For me, there were no objections received on this from the 16 neighbours that were received notification. There was no concerns from the referral bodies. And as Councillor Rowe stated, and which sort of adds a significant amount of confusion in my brain on items like this, is how some of these are approved and others are rejected. it's not an easy challenge that's presented to the planners. So as Councillor said, we've got a few that have been granted by council in the area. One of my major personal concerns on these, which was also spoken to, is that proliferation. That word appears in the reports umpteen times, and it is of serious concern because the decisions we make here tonight, that definitely go to changing the design and understanding of areas such as this. Given a few of those other test cases, given there's 15 neighbours in close proximity there, I do not believe that we're going to see a proliferation if we are to support this application tonight. So that for me was probably one of my major concerns, is that proliferation, which I don't think we'll see. I think from outsiders looking in, it's very confusing, but it does look very easy. I fully empathise with the planners here. I don't think that the planners have got this one absolutely terribly long. It isn't straightforward, and I can understand the recommendation that was put forward, but in this instance, I'll be going against that and supporting the motion based on those things. In this instance, I'm of the very strong opinion that this application falls very much in the grey area. It isn't straight cut, and I'm happy to support the motion that's been put forward with the inclusion of the conditions that have been set out by Ag Victoria. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Speak against the motion? If not, Councillor Rowe, would you like to close the debate?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, all I'd like to say is I've heard from all the councillors, and we all know that there's been there's no conflicts with nearby landowners because there's been no objections. And the construction of a dwelling on this lot does not contribute to a fragmentation of rural land, and it does not permanently remove rural land from agricultural production. The footprint of a dwelling is minimal to the size of the land, being 130 acres. And as I said before, council officers have already approved dwellings in the farming zone close to this application, and there are some 12 dwellings already established within 2 kilometres of this planning application. So I won't say any more, Madam Mayor. I think I've said enough with this, and I just hope the councillors will support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. As this item is concluded, I'll return the chair to the Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time.
Okay, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Kirby.
Your motion is passed unanimously. You actions before.
Now we're on to item 7.9, please. Finance policy updates. I'll ask Director Rennie to briefly introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gamble. This review is to endorse the updated financial hardship policy. It was due for review after the successful completion of the COVID-19 financial hardship support policy, and a review has also been completed which incorporates reference to the new Local Government Act, and also the working group within FinPro, the Financial Professionals of Local Government in Victoria, with regard to identifying financial hardship principles for the hardship and what compassionate grounds look like.
There's also been an update of the borrowing policy. And some of the changes there is that councils now have the ability as local governments to be able to access cheaper loans and investments with the state government. So the borrowing policy has been updated to allow Victorian councils to access borrowing from the Treasury at the state government. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation is that council review and endorse the updated financial hardship policy and updated borrowing policy. Are there any questions? In that case, do I have a mover of the officer's recommendation as written? Page 46 of the agenda. Councillor Sharkey. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Kirby. Councillor Sharkey, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. No, it's good to get this update on this one. The COVID hardship policy is, in my personal opinion, an absolute fantastic decision that was made by council. It's good to see there that through that review process that Golden Plains Shire is one of only a few councils that offered additional support during COVID-19. It's good that the state government has had that look at it during the Local Government Act in terms of borrowing policy and the hardship policy. I know that the financial hardship policy that was sort of called an end to was huge, was controversial when we introduced that. It was targeted support for those that needed it during COVID period. We were going to a period that we weren't too sure what was going to happen. We didn't know what the cost of this was going to be, but we did commit at the time $100,000. And I know that a lot of people in the community and councillors in this room at the time were very much of the opinion that we didn't look at something like this and rather give out $30 per resident. It's good to see that this has been looked at, noted by a lot of people out there. I know that during the year, that word hardship we refer to as the word hardship. I was speaking to a ratepayer this week whose rates has gone up $1,200 in 1 year. I would like to have had a conversation this year or further conversation regarding that rate shock relief for some of those residents that are going through hardship in 1 year. I think there's further conversations that we can have as a group in this space to be council group leaders around the Shire. So hopefully through that review and things like that we can have a good look at ways in which we can go forward with this. And thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Kirby, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Gamble. I'm very passionate about financial hardship and how people can contact council and overcome any problems that they might be having in paying their rates. And we know that council does have compassionate grounds for which do include serious illness, recent accident or injury, death or immediate family members, employment or family breakdowns and domestic violence. So as a council, we look at all these problems that are going on in the home, and at any time we really want people to come forward, ring the customer service line, go through to the direct people who can help you in the financial hardship area, and put your case forward, because it is there, the money is available, so you can have your interest waived as well. So we really think this is a great thing on behalf of our Shire. And as for the borrowing policy, we find that that this is something that overall, we would be looking at something, the best interest rates for our shire. We're looking at the overall picture where, you know, as a council going forward, we want to reduce our debt, but at the same time, we know that we are a growing council and we do have to finance loans and make sure that we are looking at big picture items that might need financing. So our borrowing policy will cover all these sort of initiatives going forward, and I think it's a very healthy policy for our shire. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, councillor. Are there any speakers who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Whitfield?
Thanks, Mayor. The borrowing policy, I'll speak to it. It's been updated to reflect the requirements of the Local Government Act 2020. The principles around borrowing have been expanded to include more thorough justification and consideration of appropriate borrowing. Procedures now include consideration of how we service the debt and factors that may warrant variation of projected borrowing ratios. I'm very pleased to say that during this council term, there have been nil borrowings and a significant reduction of debt. This means council's operating within its means, which is very good news. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Sharkey, do you wish to close? Or do we have any further councillors wishing to speak on the motion? Councillor Sharkey, do you wish to close?
No, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. 7.10. Tender for roadside slashing and guidepost maintenance. GPSC RFT 205-2022. I'll ask Director Josipovic to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This tender report seeks to appoint qualified and experienced contractors to complete roadside slashing, township maintenance mowing and guidepost running across approximately 840 kilometres of road reserve within the municipality. For the purpose of this contract, the municipality was divided into two areas, the north zone and the south zone. The contract will exclude township contract mowing in the south zone due to a recent expansion of resources within council's township maintenance team, providing capability to perform township mowing in the south zone. The tender was originally advertised on 21st of May, closing 22nd of June, with 2 submissions received on closing. The submissions were reviewed and compliance checked, with 1 submission identified as non-compliant. A confidential tender panel of evaluation report has been provided to councillors previously. In conclusion, the evaluation panel has conducted a comprehensive and detailed assessment of the submissions, which were received in response to council's request for this tender, as outlined in the report, and recommend the contract be awarded to TMC Enviro. Full recommendation is shown on page 49 of tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you, Director. So the recommendation is there on page 49, as mentioned. Are there any questions? Does any councillor wish to move the officer recommendation as written? Councillor Rose. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Rowe, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Roadside slashing and guidepost maintenance is an important part of our maintenance responsibilities. I feel a little disappointed that there was only 2 submissions received, one being non-compliant. Would have liked more for the competition. However, I am happy that TMC Enviro met the council's tender requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to speak?
Nothing else to add there. Thank you, Mayor Gamble.
Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Rowe, do you wish to close?
No, nothing further to add. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 7.11. Tender for supply of bitumen emulsion, GPSC RFT 04/2022. Once again, I'll ask Director Josipovic to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This tender report relates to the manufacture and supply of bitumen emulsion CRS-60 that must comply with Australian Standard 1160 for road maintenance purposes. The bitumen emulsion is used by the roads and drainage maintenance team in road maintenance and construction, specifically patching and repair of potholes and road shoulder edge failures. Council's current estimated use is between 80 and 90,000 litres of bituminous emulsion per annum. Generally, bulk deliveries of about 8,000 litres are sourced and stored in the made-for-purpose feed tank located at Lincoln Depot. Bituminous emulsion is a specialty product and only supplied by very few companies. The tender was originally advertised on 19th of May and closed on the 22nd of June, with 3 submissions received on closing. Submissions were reviewed and compliance checked with no submissions identified as non-compliant. A confidential tender panel evaluation report has been provided previously to councillors. In conclusion, the evaluation panel has conducted a comprehensive and detailed assessment of the submissions which were received and recommend the contract be awarded to Sammy Bitumen Technology Proprietary Limited. The full recommendation is shown on page 52 of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take the recommendation as read on page 52. And are there any questions for the Director? Does any councillor wish to move the officer recommendation as written? Councillor Kirby. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rowe. Councillor Kirby, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation as I don't know a lot about bitumen, but I'm well aware that the Director and his staff do, and this must be a very good price for what's being used in at our Linton grounds at our depot. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe, do you wish to speak?
Oh, look, I'd just like to add, Mr. Mayor, maybe like this is part of our road maintenance and construction, and you know, patching and repairing of potholes and road shoulders, edge failures, and etc. Well, it's all very important, and without this material, we wouldn't be able to do this. Thank you.
Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak for or on the motion? Councillor Kerry, do you wish to close?
No, just congratulations to the contractor who, Sammy Bitumen Technologies, for being awarded the contract.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Now we're to item 7.12. The review of instrument of appointment and authorisation, Planning and Environment Act 1987. Councillors, as this item is a regular statutory item, I will take the report and the agenda for this item as read. I refer councillors to page 55 of the agenda for the officer recommendation. Are there any questions? Does any councillor wish to move the officer recommendation as written? Councillor Whitfield, do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, thanks, Chairperson. It's important to update the instrument to comply with the relevant legislation and ensure the appropriate staff have the correct authorisation. Thank you.
Councillor Cunningham, you wish to?
Thanks, Mick. No, only just to say I also support the officer's recommendation. That will ensure that it's compliance with the all legislation.
Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Any councillors who wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to close?
Nothing further to add, thanks, Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 7.13. Councillor expenses and meeting attendance report. Quarter 4 ending 30th of June 2022. Agenda item is on page 58. Reference. Councillors, as this item is for noting, I will take the report of the agenda for this item as read. I refer councillors to page 58 of the agenda for the officer recommendation. Recommendation, the council note the contents of the expenses and attendance report for quarter 4, 2021-2022. Are there any questions? Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, CEO, to Director Rennie. In the report there's a table showing expenses. The car expense is sitting at just above 170% of the budgeted amount. Could you provide a bit of background as to why that might be the case, please?
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. On further examination after this report was produced, it was found that with the new purchase of the car, that depreciation was inadvertently added to the car expenses, and depreciation is a council expense, not a councillor expense. So around $6,000 of depreciation is included in that figure. So when we take that out, we'll be back. The budget will be close to actuals, and that will be corrected in the annual report and in any further reports. Thank you, Councillor Whitfield.
Thank you, Director.
Councillor Rowe, you had a question?
Yeah, my question was very similar in relation to the car expenses. So I think it's been answered. So thank you to it.
Okay, it's good. Are there any further questions? Councillor Kirby.
Thank you. Just noting that the conferences and training expenses were very low over this last year, taking into account that we had COVID for 3/4 of the time allocated to us. So there's sort of a savings of about $14,000 there, and it would be nice to see that go into some purposeful event or something out there in the community, but we know it will go into retained earnings. But I think coming up, now that we're coming out of COVID, that we'll see a lot more training and conferences taking place in the next 12 months. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? So do I have a mover for the officer recommendation? Councillor Whitfield. Seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Thank you. Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do, thanks, Mayor. Yes, I move the recommendation as the motion. Firstly, I would just like it noted that I was absent for the main meeting through illness, and it should read in the table on page 58 of the agenda that I attended 3 out of the 4 council meetings for the quarter. Apologise for not identifying this early enough for it to be amended prior to the meeting. I was surprised it didn't get picked up, but I suppose one can say, oh, it just wasn't missed. Yeah. And also thank you to Director Rennie for clarifying the car expenses. All other components of the report are as expected. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
Nothing else to add. Thank you, Mayor Campbell.
Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to close?
Nothing further to add, thanks.
I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Now we move to item 7.14. Meeting record. The item's on page 69. Councillors, as this item is for noting, I will take the report in the agenda for this item as read. referring to page 61 of the agenda for the officer recommendation. Are there any questions? Does any councillor wish to move the officer recommendation as written? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I move the council receive and note the meeting record from the 16th of August 2022 as attached. This is a report that shows if any councillors have declared conflicts of interests at the briefing, and it also contains the contents of the councillor briefing. It's a requirement of the Local Government Act again. And I'm pleased to see this report as it gives the public an indication of what councillors are doing at briefing days. I often have people say to me, what have you been up to? And they'll say, I've just had a 9 or a 10-hour briefing day. And they say, what the hell are you talking about for that long? But if you have a look at the report, there's many items that councillors and officers are discussing, you know, a huge range of Shire sort of wide issues. So a good report going forward to include in each meeting. Thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to speak?
Nothing else to add, thank you. Again.
Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Cooey?
Thank you. I might just have a question for the CEO, if that's all right. I'm just wondering, like, in previous,
I'll just check with the CEO.
yeah, that's right. In previous reports, we've actually had these attached to the actual agenda. Now they're attached as an item, and I'm just wondering why they can't be included.
Yeah, so I'll give you a bit of background to it. So under the previous Local Government Act, we were required and we did include these. The act changed and we only now have to put them in when there's a declaration of a conflict. And as shown in this one, there was a conflict identified at the last briefing, so that's why it's included. However, as indicated in our new governance rules, we've identified that we will, even though not required under the act, we will start to reintroduce these every month as part of the regular council agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? Speakers on the motion? Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to close?
No, thanks. That's it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, I was just wondering if we could have a 5-minute break. It is nearly 8 o'clock and we've been here 2 hours before we go into the rest of the agenda items.
Do we need to? Okay, can we have a seconded for Councillor Curtis? Councillor Ryder seconded. I'll put it to the vote. We'll have let's call it a recession. Okay, we'll resume in 5 minutes at 8:01.
That's right, the live stream is still on, so please be mindful.
Sound as well.
the copy machine.
I'll just put it up there.
Welcome back, councillors and officers. We have, we're now on to notice of motions. Starting with April 1, councillor interactions with developers. We have 3 notices of motion for consideration tonight. The first notice of motion submitted by councillor Brett Cunningham is a motion that Golden Plains Shire Council requests a report to a councillor briefing within the next 6 months, investigating the creation of an applicable policy and introduction of a register of councillor interactions with developers. Councillor Cunningham, will you move the motion?
Sorry, just a point of clarification. Do we have to move to come back into session?
Because it was 5 minutes to a certain time.
Sorry, thank you very much.
Thanks for that clarification. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to?
I would like to move the motion.
Okay, well, you have 3 minutes to introduce the motion by indicating the intent or and/or the desired outcome if passed.
Thank you very much, Mayor Gamble. My notice of motion is to investigate the creation of a councillor property developer investors contact register. The creation, introduction of the applicable register will assist councillors to balance their statutory responsibilities to serve the overall public interest, both current and for the future. Also have ethical and legal obligations to ensure that decision-making in relation to development applications and related matters is transparent and free from inappropriate influence. Responsible property development supports the economic growth and prosperity of our shire, and we need to understand and recognise that local development matters can attract strong community interest and also interest in any possible interactions between councils and property investors developers. Following council's recommendations regarding planning matters, elected councillors have direct responsibility for rezoning, development plans and development approvals. As we know, in 2020, some Casey councillors were sacked by the state government amid an unfolding inquiry into councillors and property developers dealing with buyback. By establishing a publicly accessible register of council meetings with property developers and investors and updating applicable council governance rules and public transparency policies, council will give the community full transparency of these meetings and interactions and instill confidence that all parties are acting in the best interest of the community. I commend this notice of motion to council. Thank you.
And thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Whitfield.
Have the opportunity for questions, Mr.
Yes. Yep. This way.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Canning on that. Just my reading of the motion here is that the council is requesting a report to come to a briefing date and then an investigation and then a possible creation. Am I misunderstanding the motion, just noting that you sort of spoke to that this is going to be created?
No, sorry, yeah, so what it is, it will be a report to come to council for us to, as you say, to discuss on the briefing date.
Okay.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Kirby.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, I'm just trying to work out roughly what would you class as a developer?
That would probably be something that I would hope would be questions about that would be discussed in the briefing day. I'd probably need a bit of, for me, it would be if someone spends own a 5 acre property and was going to subdivide or something like that, I'd see that as a development. But once again, I'd be very open to the report when it comes to the briefing day to have discussions with my fellow councillors to try and come to some agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question?
Are there any further questions? In that case, Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, what I've mentioned is spoken to. There's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. The Local Government Inspectorate has released advice regarding developer-councillor interactions in its winter 2022 newsletter. Quoting from the newsletter, it says, any involvement a councillor has with a development application during its assessment has the potential to damage the integrity of the final determination. We, the Inspectorate, recommend that councillors should not be meeting with developers one-on-one if they have an application before council or are about to make one. A one-on-one meeting with a developer runs the risk of a councillor being accused of bias. Requests for a meeting should go through official council channels, such as a generic council inbox. Councillors should only meet with a developer with a council officer present. Alternatively, councils could require that all councillors are invited to any meeting with developers. Creating a policy which clearly sets out how councillors should interact with developers will create the ground rules for interactions, help with transparency and manage community expectations. Everybody will understand what is expected and this will aid oversight. Keeping a record of interactions councillors have with the developers will ensure any meetings are open and transparent and available for the public to see. This is pretty solid advice from the Inspectorate. The council plan, our council plan, has many references to transparency and openness in the leadership theme, and this is one more way to commit to that. There will be some foreseeable questions, as Councillor Kirby asked. How would you define a developer? What information would go in the register? Who has access to the register? I believe those questions and more would be answered in the investigation and follow-up creation of the policy. Other councils also have contact registers, so there would be templates out there that this policy could be based on. I think this would be a good addition for Golden Plains, given we are in a high growth region. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak for the motion? Right. Councillor Sharkey?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Gamble. These ones, it'll be good to actually get a report on this, just to sort of see what we can do in this space. But Councillor Kirby's extremely simple question, it appears very simple to the community. What is a developer? But genuinely, what is a developer? It is a very difficult question to answer. Councillor Cunningham has suggested anyone above 5 acres is a developer, yet someone on 4.5 acres isn't a developer. And I'm not saying that Councillor Cunningham is stuck in that, but it's quite, this is the conversation we'll have at a briefing day. But is a developer that develops so much but then does it too long? There's just a whole heap of questions that we asked on this process. Many councils have tried to go down this path, and I know that Geelong City Council started this process, went down, so I'm not too sure what ended up happening to that. I think during the briefing on this, I'd like to see something like this. Probably, we're not reinventing a wheel here. It would be, Councillor Whitfield quoted that little piece that was in a newsletter that came to us. It identifies growth suburb growth councils. It also states in there that we're still waiting for that IBAC report to come out, which will have recommendations in that as well. I'm not sure when that's due, but we should be also listening to that. I suppose one of my early questions is, why do we have this conversation as Golden Plains Shire? Why don't we bring this up through the Mayor to G21 or to the area of the group or the MAB? My initial take on this is that it should be set at that level, and then the councils. But let's have the conversation, see where it goes. But it's not straightforward and easy as simple as that question Councillor Kirby asked. It's quite complicated, but maybe that's where we end up taking this through those powers and push MAB or whatever it is. But let's have the conversation here. Happy to support.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other councillors who wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to close?
Nothing else to add.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? No, motion is carried unanimously. Go on to 8.2, notice of motion, cost and resource implications of reducing intervention levels for maintenance of local sealed and unsealed roads. Councillors, the next notice of motion for consideration tonight by Councillor Les Rowe is the council requests officers, this is the motion, the council request officers to prepare a briefing paper by November 2022 on the cost and resource implications of reducing intervention levels for maintenance of local sealed and unsealed roads. Councillor Rowe, will you move the motion?
Yes, I'd like to move the motion, Mr. Mayor, and
you have 3 minutes to introduce it.
Okay. Well, listen, I may not speak for three minutes, but look, the recent community satisfaction survey highlighted that the condition of the local roads, both sealed and unsealed, was the rated lowest by a community of services provided by council. I understand that council staff maintains road in accordance with intervention levels in the council adopted road management plan, and reducing intervention levels is likely to result in a greater maintenance burden to council, but an improved road network and customer satisfaction might happen. And all I'd like to say, this is not only an issue in Golden Plains Shire, this is an ongoing issue right throughout regional Victoria. From what I can gather, you know, when you're reading the papers regularly, and especially the Weekly Times, about the condition of rural roads, I think we could do something here in Golden Plains Shire anyway. Thus the reasoning for this notice of motion tonight. So thank you.
Do we have a second of the Councillor Rowe's motion? Councillor Sharkey. Councillor, do we have any questions to Councillor Rowe? Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you. Just wondering if we do, looking at that, changing it, is that going to, the creation of extra work or time that's going to be required?
But you'd have to consider that if we accept lower intervention levels, I know in the gravel road charter, the main intervention levels are 4 inches deep. If we were to make them, say, 3 inches, for example, I think they're 400 millimetre, 400 across, you know what I mean, pothole sizes. So if we happen to drop those intervention levels down, no doubt we'll find out from this report that it'll have to cost more. But then if we can get this done by November or Christmas time, and we agree to this, then going forward in the budget, we can implement something in the budget. So that's the reasoning for it. Okay.
I appreciate that response from Councillor Rowe. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Rowe, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, I think I've said enough there. Thank you. But yeah, I just like to see those. You know, that satisfaction survey. I'd just like to see the next one come through where, you know, hopefully, if we adopt some of these, that it could be a positive for us as a council.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sharkey, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, look, thanks very much. I think this is a nice motion being put forward. It is getting back to our roads, rates and rubbish conversation, which we all know is extremely loud and prevalent in community. So it's good to have this. I know that when we did bring in the Roads Charter Act, which is now a number of years ago, we did have the conversation at the time, should we have the levels here, here or here? And we set a fairly reasonable target at the time, but the council today was extremely mindful that we have the power to make every road in the Shire absolutely perfect if we want, but it does come at a cost. So we did at the time set some fairly standard targets. And then from that, there was a lot of work done, and there should be a lot of data now, given that it's a number of years ago. So hopefully when it comes to us, again, like I've said on a few items here, what supersedes these ambitious targets is our budget. At the end of the day, we've got X amount of dollars to spend. And council's made the statement here tonight that, we don't want to borrow money, we don't want to overburden. So there is that challenge, whether we have the levels here, here or here. Hopefully this report comes in and sort of just helps define it. So if we decide to stay where we are, at least we can tell the community, this is the reason why we have roads such as this. We have to accept that this community satisfaction is at this level, unless we're willing to pay X amount for it. So it'll be an interesting conversation to come forward to council and go through that report. And thank you very much to Councillor O for roads, rates and rubbish issue.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors who wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Rowe, do you wish to close?
No, I'd, just like to take on board those comments that Councillor Sharkey made. All positive comments. So no, that's all I'll say. Thank you.
I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Now, as I'm the mover of the next motion, I'll vacate the chair and ask Councillor Kirby, Deputy Chair, to be given the chair.
Item 8.3, notice of motion, housing. Mayor, councillors, the next item is a notice of motion. Oh, sorry, it is two. Mayor Gamble, would you like to read out your motion?
In introducing this notice of motion, I acknowledge the start of the motion is quite a rather long and complex sentence structure.
Hold on, councillor. Oh, sorry. Yeah, just if you'd like to read out the motion that you're putting forward. Sorry.
Okay, so I could introduce. The motion is, while it is noted and commendable that a report is being prepared by officers to come to council in the coming months in relation to social and affordable housing and work being done in partnership with other agencies to increase the supply of such housing in Golden Plains Shire, this motion requests a report be prepared to consider and advise on broader opportunities for council to, 1, facilitate a greater diversity of housing choice and availability in the Shire, including independent living options for older people and people with disability. 2, attract philanthropic housing organisations to the Shire to deliver greater local housing choice. And 3, work with external agencies, including government, philanthropic and or religious organisations in facilitating the above.
Thank you, Mayor Gamble. Will you move this motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Gamble. You now have 3 minutes to introduce the motion by indicating its intent and or the desired outcomes if asked.
I begin by acknowledging the work and recommendations being formulated for Council's future consideration on social and affordable housing issues by Council officers as part of, 1, a statewide response being driven by the MAV's Social and Affordable Housing Compact. Then on a regional basis, there is a G21 response as part of the region's social housing project. Well, my notice of motion seeks to complement the bigger picture MAV and G21 based approach and responses to come. I'm looking at the broader opportunities for us as a caring council trying to look after all of our community, residents, people who live in our shire as best as we can with the levers we have as councillors. I seek to address to get a clearer picture and possible things we can or may choose to do to alleviate housing stress in our shire, to find local solutions, not just to increase housing for affordable or disadvantaged people, but to find appropriate housing solutions for many of our existing house residents who are experiencing housing stress. So I'll leave my introduction at that point.
Thank you, Mayor Gamble. Do I have a seconder, councillors? Councillor Cunningham? Maybe would you like to speak to the motion?
No, it's, I'll reserve my right to speak.
Okay, thank you. Is there any councillors who? Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry, would you like to speak to the motion? Sorry.
Yes, please. When I was working as a gardener in Newtown, there was church units behind the church there that had a small community of people that would otherwise have housing difficulty, probably not have anywhere decent to live. But by that arrangement there that was organised or backed by a philanthropic organisation in the church, they had a great community and a place to live. I ask, this is the sort of thing that I'd like to see our Shire be able to introduce. And I'd like to discuss and open up a dialogue on how we could get these sort of solutions into our townships. On the other hand, I've worked at big farm properties like 5 and 10 acre blocks where older residents in particular, or people who've had an accident, or whatever, struggle to maintain their property and would much prefer to live in a much smaller, easier to manage location. But they're part of the community. They want to stay in their community. They've often got friends there. And I think there are potential solutions for accommodation needs to be met in our towns if we are able to find a way to work with agencies, philanthropic or religious, to facilitate that sort of thing. I'd also like to point out that when I was at the G21 forum, right from the start there, on the front of the title was Connected Communities, Growing Our Region Well. Well, I think I'm introducing this nom as part of trying to grow our Shire well, to look at, I'd like to start a dialogue looking at what options we can take. And in doing that, it's to complement the work that will be coming on affordable and social and affordable housing. The other one of the at the G21 stakeholder forum in Torquay, a housing expert there, Professor Billy Giles Corti, is an urban research and policy specialist. She specifically identified the lack of diversity in housing policy and basically urged all local governments to address that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble. Is there any questions, councillors? No, if there's no questions, I have a seconder. Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to?
No.
No, you wouldn't. Are there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Councillor Rowe.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say, number one, a report is being prepared by officers at the moment to come to council in the future. So we shouldn't be perhaps jumping the gun at this time, but just wait and see. As social and affordable housing is mentioned alongside partnerships with agencies to increase such housing supply. Number two, under section 2.3 of the council plan 2021-25, which is headed Provide for the Diversity of Lifestyle and Housing Options. I note this action is in progress and will be completed shortly. The activities being undertaken at the moment is both character and affordable social housing will be considered in detail as part of the Shire-wide settlement strategy, and council officers continue to liaise with relevant stakeholders for the provision of social housing and advocating for a mandated requirement in the planning scheme with developers, which developers must adhere to. Furthermore, the Shire-wide settlement strategy is a large piece of work required to inform where and how we grow for the next 20+ years. This project is well underway with stakeholder engagement planned for later this year or early 2023. So therefore, Madam Mayor, that is my reasoning that I won't be supporting this motion of Councillor Gamble's, because as far as I'm concerned, we're already in a process at this stage, and it'd be good if we let the process run and then see what we get out of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Councillor Shire.
Thank you very much. Just listening to the last couple of motions that we've got, councillors, we've all sort of gone off a little bit off track, because what we're doing is we're asking the office to bring a report, and then our opinions will be formed, where some of these motions, particularly this one, was sort of almost coming to a conclusion for it. And I'm personally complicated. I find this quite complicated in that we've got a report coming and we're noting it, yet we're asking for more things to be done when we don't know the outcome of the report. I would have personally thought that when a report comes to council, that these type of questions could be asked at a briefing day, and then from that report, council at a briefing day might be able to ask a few of these type of questions, and the outcome of that might lead down paths like this. I just don't understand. I'm not disagreeing with the intent of it, but the motion, I just don't understand why we need to have a motion for something that's already in process. The Mayor is putting this motion forward. The Mayor has more power than all of us, or has allowed a voice in forums to bring these issues, be it at the MOV and higher levels, G21 and the likes. Those conversations can happen if the Mayor feels that that's something that ratepayers want pushed in line with all our expectations. Again, on just with those 3 points there, me personally, if they were something I wanted to push, I'd take them to a briefing day, ask those questions, and see if I can push that conversation in that way. If we support this motion here tonight, Council, I just think we're setting an interesting precedent, and taking both Councillor Cunningham and Rowe's motions that have put in the reports coming, if they were to come to the next council meeting and say, oh, look, I want that a little bit broader now, and I want to look this way and that way. Let's put the horse in front of the cart, see what the outcome is, have the conversation, and then go from there.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there any other councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Whitfield?
So speak to you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor, Deputy Mayor. I think this is a very commendable notice of motion to bring and highlight perhaps the need in our Shire for additional affordable and social housing. It's absolutely something we need to address. From memory, there's only about 8 social homes in the Shire, so definitely something that can be worked on from our end. I was looking for things that were not duplicating what has already been done, and I do feel that this motion adds a bit of duplication to the work. I understand Mayor Gamble's point about philanthropic agencies and other groups, but I'm assuming that, or I've got to assume that that's coming in the report already to us. Yeah, a commendable issue, but I think it's in hand at the moment with what's coming to us. Thanks, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. If there's no one else, Councillor Cunningham, you've reserved your right.
Nothing else there. I think the councillors have covered off pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you. Member, would you like to close the debate?
Yeah, I'll mention that the, speaking to Director Sigoni about the forthcoming reports, briefing on social and affordable housing, he indicated he's bringing them forward in a staged approach based on that level, and he's on the statewide, regional, then a local response. Local response is not so clear. We are different from other local government areas, and like I indicated before from that researcher speaking at Torquay, we need to find our own solutions. This notice of motion is signalling an opportunity for us to have a dialogue in our local government to look for those differences in finding solutions that suit our community, because we're not, we have massive deficit of tourist workers industry. They're having so much trouble just even housing workers for the businesses down there, and yet they've got so many houses that don't have any occupants because they're holiday housing and things. So we've got a massively different problem even from that regional perspective. So because of our block sizes and our townships, we should be looking at different solutions. So I'm commending this motion to find appropriate housing solutions for many of our residents who are experiencing housing stress. And we need to identify and have an approach that's unique to our local government. So this way, this notice of motion is I'm hoping that it will find ways and asking for thinking on Golden Plains to start a dialogue to look at broader opportunities, ways that we can look after a range of people in our community that I think aren't being looked after. So in conclusion, I also recommend my rationale there that people could read that. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you. It is, the motion is carried. He's lost, sorry, he's lost. Sorry, he's lost. Let's count the numbers. Thank you.
Nil petitions. No urgent business. So, councillors, there are confidential items for consideration tonight. These items are considered confidential as defined in section 3 of the Local Government Act. Can I have a councillor to move the recommendation to move into closed session? Councillor Lloyd? And councillor Kirby. I now make the motion. All those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. I now ask members of the gallery to leave forthwith. So the meeting can move into closed session. The live stream will also cease at this time. Thank you.